I've just finished running 2 miles in a hoodie, call it my insulation, and a plastic trash bag, call it my vapor barrier, to help you guys understand once and for all, do houses really need to breathe? As you can see, I am very sweaty, I feel like dying, and it was mildly embarrassing. Now, I would still be sweaty if I had just worn the hoodie, but I would be a whole lot less sweaty. Why is that? That's because that hoodie is made mostly of cotton. That cotton is vapor open, all right? Vapor can diffuse through it. My sweat would have absorbed into the sweatshirt and it would have evaporated into the air. Now, this traps more airflow as well, but it's not completely airtight by any means. I mean, a lot of air could still come through here, but it's definitely not enough to get rid of all this sweat. This is one of the most highly debated subjects in construction, and whenever I mention it in my comments, someone always disagrees with me down below. If you watch my stuff from about a year ago, you'll see that I was more on the houses need to breathe side. And if you watch my most recent videos, I say no, houses should be airtight. So let's break it down so we can understand this once and for all. This plastic jug is a whole lot like our modern house. It is vapor closed. Vapor can't pass through it. These materials also don't absorb and store water. And there's also no ability for air to move through. The problem is that we as people generate humidity just by living, through breathing, through pets, through doing laundry, through taking showers, through cooking. It's estimated that the average American household makes between 3 and 5 gallons of water per day that is released into the air via vapor. I think it's pretty obvious that we wouldn't want our houses to be like the plastic jug. You know, if there was food for mold to grow on, you would see mold and bacteria and other nasty stuff growing inside of here. The reason this works is because it's sterile inside of here and there's nothing for the mold to grow on. But that's not the end of the story. You see, we really are talking about 2 different things. 1, we have evaporation from airflow, and 2, we have vapor diffusion, which is vapor moving through a material. Now, evaporation is still what's going to pick up that vapor at the end of the day when it reaches the surface of the wall or whatever it's moving through. So let's look at our new and old house. You know, old houses were the ones that notoriously could breathe, and they could do this through a lot of ways. But people are usually talking about airflow when they say this, all right? The airflow could, it could come in around the windows and doors. They were oftentimes sealed poorly and very drafty. It might have a vented attic that connects via balloon framing where it's framed continuous top to bottom with no plates here. So air could flow, from a vented attic all the way down through the walls and everywhere, as well as the fact that all of these materials are oftentimes vapor open. The siding was wood. If it had sheathing, it was wood plank. The interior was plaster. So these were very forgiving houses, but they did have issues. With new houses, we have essentially stopped all of those things, all right? Our windows and doors, they're tight, all right? We now do platform framing, so there's breaks and the air can't just flow through. As well as the fact that, the materials are no longer vapor open. On the outside, we probably got we got our vinyl siding. On the inside, we've usually got drywall with, a few coats of latex base paint, which is a vapor retarder. And our materials, such as our wall sheather, are like an OSB, which is an even tighter vapor retarder than drywall. So with the old house, if moisture got in via a leak, it might be able to dry out so well that that leak never even caused mold. Let's say it's, leaking at the window, it gets down in the wall. Well, there's nothing in that wall, and it went straight down into the basement or crawl space, and it was all vented really well on purpose or not on purpose. Whereas on our new house, I forgot to say it before, but we've also filled the cavities with insulation, right? So if we develop a leak here at the window and it drains down in, well, it's going to get caught in the fiberglass or it's going to get caught in the spray foam or whatever we filled that with. There's no airflow, so there's not going to be evaporation, and the materials themselves are vapor closed. So whether it hits the OSB on one side and, it can't get through very well, or it hits the paper face on the insulation, or even the drywall itself. So we can see there's really no place for the moisture to go if we develop a leak inside of a new house. Now, we could complain all day about how, energy codes have ruined houses, but they're here. They're not going away. They're only going to get stricter. So we really just need to learn to build with energy codes in place. So we're not going to be able to go back to our old way of building where there was nothing in the cavity. And it had major problems anyway. So we do love to romanticize the past. I'm a little bit guilty of it. But this balloon framing where everything was open top to bottom, it was super prone to having fires spread really fast. And these houses were also really drafty. A drafty house is not very comfortable to live in because it's never going to be as warm or as cool as you'd like. So we can take some of the aspects from this old house that were breathable and apply them to our new house, and we can still have most of the same effect. We're not going to have all of it, but overall we can build a much better house today if we will build very smart. And before we go any farther, I need to specify one thing. When we're talking about whether the house breathes or not, we're not talking about whether the attic or roof assembly is vented. We're talking about the living space. So you can have a house that doesn't breathe at all, but it still has a vented attic, all right? But this whole area down here doesn't breathe, right? So what you should have noticed as we've gone through the two of these things is there's really two different things we're talking about, all right? One is the airflow, the balloon framing and all the air flowing through there. And two is the materials and how well they breathe. When I say breathe, I'm talking about how well can vapor move through them. Are they vapor open? For example, a vinyl siding is vapor closed, whereas a wood siding is vapor open. So let's get around to answering this question. Do houses need to breathe? Humans need to breathe so we get oxygen, right? So that we don't die in like 3 or 4 minutes. Houses don't need oxygen in the same way that we do. What they need to be able to do is to dry out. And they can dry out without uncontrolled airflow. We can do this by using vapor open materials, but still not allowing the house to breathe via uncontrolled airflow. Drying is what's important, and I need to shout out credit to Asiri Designs, a guy on YouTube who makes great building science videos and really is the one who helped me to understand this over time. You see, uncontrolled airflow brings a lot of problems that didn't show up so much in an old house, but they will show up in the new house. So the part that I didn't get at first, and I think it's the main reason that we still have this big argument about whether houses need to breathe, is that air brings way more moisture with it than vapor diffusion ever will. Vapor diffusion would be the outdoor humidity, it's out here, it's acting on my siding and it's moving through the pores in my siding to inside, right? Whereas the humidity in the air, the vapor in the air, would be it's sneaking through a crack in my siding and then through my sheathing and filling my cavity here full of humid air. That type of air movement can move between 50x to 100x as much vapor as vapor diffusion can. So that means if you have uncontrolled airflow coming into your new house here with your cavities full of insulation and your impermeable materials, you have a recipe for mold. It didn't affect this house because everything was so wide open. They could get away with it. We can't get away with it with the new house. So let's just run through a scenario. Here's our modern wall assembly. Here's our outlet. We have an air leak around our outlet, and the humid air starts coming through. It comes around the outlet and it gets into the wall. Well, it makes its way past the OSB, which is quite vapor closed. It gets into our insulation. And it's fiberglass. It doesn't dry very well. And we've got a craft paper face here, which is also another moisture retarder. And then we've got our drywall here, which is another moisture retarder. Well, that vapor can't really go anywhere because none of these materials are going to let it pass through. And also, the air can get in here, but there's not enough airflow for the evaporation to take it away. So it's trapped. And so we're going to have a mold problem start to develop here. And hopefully it stays pretty localized, but it's probably going to spread out a little bit from there. And for people who are really mold sensitive, one small mold section in the wall could be enough to cause really bad health problems. Now, if we had this on our old house, it was totally vapor open and air could move through. So there was nothing in this cavity. This was just wood and probably had a bunch of gaps there. This flowed all the way down to the basement and to the attic. This was a vapor open material. So an air leak wasn't a big deal. So let's take a look at our much smarter wall assembly that is airtight, but it allows the vapor to diffuse out of it. All right, one is we did a wood siding on the outside. Now we could use something cheaper, but wood is quite vapor open. It's a great product, one of the best siding options. But we also put it over a rain screen here, which is our vertical furring strips on the outside of the building. So we're getting the evaporation that we wanted from the old house, but we're getting it outside of our air barrier so that it's not bringing humid air in with it, all right? Behind that rain screen, we've got our WRB. Tyvek is the most commonly known WRB, but ideally in ours, we've used one that's a peel and stick, you know, like Grace Ice and Water Shield is an example of the most commonly known peel and stick. Now, don't use it for that, but there are products that they make like that you peel the back off and you stick them down, and they're vapor open, so vapor come through, but they also stop the airflow so that humid air can't come in and deposit all that moisture inside of our wall. And then for our sheathing, we used plywood, all right? We didn't use OSB. It's way more vapor open, and if it does get wet, the pores on it swell way up, and it allows the moisture to get out of there so much better than OSB. Inside of our wall cavity, we used a vapor open insulation. You know, mineral wool, wood fiber, sheep's wool, all incredibly vapor open. On the inside of our house here, you know, maybe we still did end up with drywall with some latex-based paint over it. That's not the end of the world if we've done the rest of this right, okay? But what we didn't have to do is, one, we didn't have an extra vapor barrier here, okay? We did not have any poly sheeting. We didn't have any craft-based paper on our fiberglass insulation. And ideally, if possible, we wouldn't even do that. We would have drywall with a vapor open paint on it. We could do a clay paint, we could do a milk paint, or we could do wood planks, or we could even do a historic plaster. With this wall assembly here, if we do get some moisture inside of the wall, it has a really good shot of being able to move through all of those materials and get out of there. But we've still sealed off with an air barrier there, in this case our peel and stick WRB, to keep uncontrolled humidity from coming inside of the wall, and one, just filling all of our products that absorb moisture with that moisture, you know, hydroscopic materials, and also two, you know, if we've got big temperature changes from inside to outside and we have cold surfaces, we're always at risk for condensation, and condensation can cause awful mold problems by warm air hitting cold surfaces. That cold surface will suck the moisture out of the air, it'll condense onto that surface, and then it can drip down and cause an awful mold problem inside of our wall cavity. So do houses need to breathe? No, not like humans do. They need to be able to dry. The only places that we want them to breathe like humans and let air in and out is where we control it. So a window is a good example of that, or an ERV or HRV system. But inside of wall cavities, in attics, in all of the out of sight and out of mind places, we do not want uncontrolled airflow because it's going to bring uncontrolled humidity, which can lead to major mold and rot problems. So after watching this video, I would like to know what you guys think. Do houses need to be able to breathe like humans with uncontrolled airflow, or do they need to be able to just dry by using vapor open materials? Thanks for watching, guys, and if you're interested in building healthy, I've got some cool free guides linked below.